April 10, 1912. The docks of Southampton buzzed with excitement. Families hugged, friends laughed, porters carried luggage. And all eyes turned to one magnificent sight, the RMS Titanic. She stood like a floating palace, the largest, most luxurious ship the world had ever seen. A marvel of human engineering. They called her the Unsinkable. Her 4 towering smokestacks belched gentle plumes of smoke as the final preparations were made. Wealthy first-class passengers boarded in their finest attire, silk gowns, tailored suits, diamond jewelry glittering in the spring sun. The lower decks filled with working-class immigrants, their hopes packed into battered suitcases, their eyes filled with dreams of a new life across the ocean. Among them was Evelyn O'Connor, a young woman from Belfast, Ireland. Her sea-blue eyes sparkled with hope as she guided her 9-year-old brother Thomas through the crowd. Their parents had passed away, and America was their only chance at a fresh start. She held Thomas's hand tightly, her heart pounding with excitement. And an unknown fear she couldn't quite explain. The Titanic loomed before them, grand, powerful, unstoppable. She stretched nearly 900 feet long, with over 2,200 passengers and crew aboard. For many, this voyage was the beginning of their dreams. For some, it would be the end. As the ship departed, crowds waved goodbye. Bands played cheerful music. No one suspected they were bidding farewell. Forever the days passed in elegance. The grand staircase gleamed with polished wood and gold accents. First-class passengers sipped champagne, danced to live music, and dined on caviar and lobster. Below deck, third-class families shared stories of the futures they imagined. Captain Edward Smith, an experienced sailor, commanded the vessel. Mood was light, confident. After all, the Titanic was unsinkable, but the North Atlantic holds no respect for human pride. April 14, 1912. The 5th night at sea. The temperature dropped sharply. A biting wind howled across the decks. Below the starry sky, the ocean stretched endlessly dark, silent, and unforgiving. In the crow's nest, Frederick Fleet, the lookout, squinted into the black horizon. Cold stung his face. Iceberg warnings had been received all day, but the ship sailed on, confident and undeterred. At 11:40 p.m., Fleet's eyes widened in horror. Out of the darkness, a monstrous shadow emerged, a towering iceberg, glistening under the moonlight. Iceberg, right ahead. The bell clanged. Officers shouted orders. The Titanic veered hard to port. Engines reversed, but it was too late. The iceberg's jagged edge scraped along the starboard side. A terrible screech of metal filled the air. Steel plates buckled. Rivets popped. Below deck, the sea poured in with terrifying force. Evelyn awoke to the jolt. Thomas stirred beside her. The ship seemed to tremble beneath them. Muffled voices filled the corridor. At first, some laughed. Probably just ice bumping the hull, they joked. But deep down, different fear settled in Evelyn's chest. In the lower compartments, crew members rushed to inspect the damage. Water surged through the breached hull. Bulkheads were compromised. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, surveyed the growing flood with a grim expression. The Titanic was in mortal danger. Above, the ship's engines stopped. An eerie silence fell. Passengers peeked out of their cabins, confused. Crew members whispered urgently among themselves. The captain's face turned pale as the truth became clear. The unsinkable ship was sinking. Lifeboats were uncovered. Distress rockets prepared. The wireless operators sent frantic messages into the night. Come at once. We have struck an iceberg. But they were alone in the freezing ocean. No ship could reach them in time. Panic crept like wildfire. Crew members tried to maintain order. Women and children first. Officers shouted, guiding families toward the lifeboats, but there weren't enough. Not nearly enough. Evelyn's heart raced as she dressed. Thomas quickly. The corridors swarmed with terrified passengers. Some were still in disbelief, sipping tea, unaware of the coming tragedy. Others pushed and pleaded, desperate for space on the lifeboats. On deck, flares lit the sky. The majestic Titanic, once the pride of the world, now tilted slightly as water, filled her belly. Band played a waltz, trying to calm the panicked crowd. Their music drifted eerily into the frozen air. Evelyn clutched Thomas's hand. Her eyes scanned the chaos, mothers sobbing, fathers whispering final words to their families, crew members shouting orders drowned out by the growing roar of the sea. Below them, the mighty Atlantic crept in, silent, merciless. The Titanic's lights flickered. The ship groaned as steel twisted under unimaginable pressure. This was no longer a luxury voyage. It was a fight for survival. A nightmare that had only just begun. The night sky above the North Atlantic was ablaze with flares, a desperate cry for help that seemed to vanish into the endless dark. Below, the mighty Titanic groaned as water flooded her insides. The ship, once a symbol of human triumph, now tilted forward, wounded. Helpless against the wrath of nature, Evelyn held tightly onto Thomas as they pushed through the frantic crowd toward the lifeboats. Every second mattered. Panic rippled through the passengers, shouting, sobbing, confusion, as officers tried to maintain order. Women and children first. The crew repeated again and again. Lifeboats were being lowered rapidly now. Each carried only a fraction of the souls on board. Most passengers, clinging to their pride or in disbelief, hesitated. Some joked, still convinced Titanic couldn't sink. Others fought, driven by pure survival instinct. Evelyn reached the edge of the deck. The lifeboats dangled above the black ocean. Ice floated in the frigid water. Her heart pounded in her chest as she lifted Thomas toward a nearby lifeboat, but an officer blocked her path. "Only the boy. Please, I'm his sister. Let me go with him," Evelyn begged. The officer hesitated, his eyes full of regret, but orders were orders. With trembling hands, she placed Thomas into the lifeboat. His small face, pale with fear, looked up at her. "I'll be right behind you," Evelyn whispered, forcing a smile she didn't believe. The lifeboat lowered, creaking, swaying over the side of the ship, disappearing into the shadows. Evelyn stood frozen, her heart breaking. But there was no time for sorrow. The ship's bow dipped lower. Cold sea spray lashed across the deck. Further, along the deck, chaos erupted. Crew members fired warning shots to keep the panicked crowd from overwhelming the boats. Flares hissed into the sky. The haunting melody of the ship's orchestra floated through the night, playing nearer, my God, to thee. Their music, steady yet sorrowful, was the last shred of calm in a crumbling world. The Titanic tilted more sharply now. Dishes slid off tables. Furniture crashed across elegant halls. Passengers screamed as icy water burst through stairwells, flooding cabins, swallowing the lower decks. Below deck, the cold Atlantic devoured the ship room by room. Hundreds were trapped. Their cries echoed through the metal corridors. Some prayed, some pounded on locked gates. The mighty liner's steel skeleton groaned under the weight of its fate. Evelyn clung to a railing, her breath steaming in the frozen air. Around her, others fought to climb toward the stern, away from the rising water. The ship's lights flickered, then died. Darkness consumed the Titanic, broken only by the eerie glow of the stars and distant flares. With a deafening roar, the ship split in two. Metal twisted like paper. The rear section crashed back onto the water, briefly steadying before beginning its final plunge. Evelyn scrambled toward the stern, gripping onto anything she could as the ship rose higher and higher, nearly vertical. Now, people clung to railings, weeping, praying, holding each other. Then silence. In the fall, the rear of the Titanic slid beneath the waves, dragging hundreds into the freezing blackness. Evelyn plunged into the Atlantic. The icy water stole. Her breath, her limbs burned with cold. All around her, screams filled the night, people splashing, debris floating, desperate voices fading, one by one. She gasped, fighting to keep her head above water, fingers clawing for anything solid. A floating wooden panel drifted by. With the last of her strength, she clung to it, trembling violently, her teeth chattering uncontrollably. Bodies drifted around her, some alive, some eerily still. The ocean was a graveyard now, littered with the debris of shattered dreams. Hours passed. The night grew quieter as more voices fell silent. Only the groan of shifting ice and the gentle lapping of waves remained. Then, faint lights on the horizon. A ship, the Carpathia, answering the Titanic's final desperate call. Lifeboats, crowded with survivors, were pulled aboard. Blankets, hot drinks, tears of relief and grief. Evelyn's frozen body was lifted from the water. Clung to life. Her lips blue, her eyes glassy, but her heart still beating. Miraculously, Thomas was safe aboard the Carpathia. When Evelyn awoke, her brother's small arms wrapped around her. They had survived. But at a terrible cost. Over 1,500 souls lost too. The sea that night, fathers, mothers, children, lovers. The greatest ship ever built now rested at the bottom of the Atlantic, broken, silent. The world awoke to the unimaginable news. Headlines screamed of tragedy. Families mourned. Survivors whispered the horrors they had seen. The Titanic, once a marvel of engineering, had become a cautionary tale, a reminder that nature, fate, and pride care nothing for human ambition. 2. This day, deep beneath the ocean's surface, the Titanic lies in her watery grave. Her grandeur faded, her halls silent. But her story lives on.